Civil War 2.0 as ICE prepares to train for urban warfare simulating Chicago. I don't know what this means. I don't know why ICE would be training for urban warfare in a place meant to replicate Chicago, and I don't really know if it means Civil War. I'm just being hyperbolic to start the video, but this is a crazy story. Check this out. ICE fails to properly redact document, reveals location of future, quote, urban warfare training facility. Wow. I think the government knows about what's going on. I have some sources. Unfortunately, I do respect unfortunately for you, I should say, I respect the privacy of sources who give me information off the record. I would say that's fortunate for my sources. I do think there are some things the public has an absolute right to know, but I also believe in standard journalistic ethics. If someone confides in me and says I can tell you something, I won't repeat it. What I can say is, someone provided me information that I should say proves the government is well aware of what's going on in the culture war and are deeply concerned about it. I should stress too, saying it this way might make it seem like it's more serious of a story than it really is. It was more of a passive drama comment. Someone I know who works in a certain place said a thing to me and said, don't tell anybody specifics, but the government knows what's going on and they're taking it seriously. It's really that simple. So there's your information. I don't need to give you the names or the finer details, but you get the point. I want to make sure I keep them safe. But when I see stories like this, it says to me, they know. Check it out. They say ICE has accidentally revealed the whereabouts of a future urban warfare training facility that is expected to include hyper-realistic simulations of homes, hotels, and commercial buildings in Chicago and Arizona. On Tuesday, ICE published an acquisition form for the procurement of hyper-realistic training devices for a new training facility for its expanding Special Response Team program on the Federal Business Opportunities website. The immigration agency had sought to redact the location of the new training facility, but failed to do so properly. The agency, which has made this kind of mistake previously, appears to have a systemic information security problem. Yeah, can't say I'm surprised. That's the government for you. In this case, Newsweek was able to simply copy and paste the document's contents into a word processor and quickly establish that the facility would be built at the Office of Firearms and Tactical Programs, Tactical Operations Complex at Fort Benning, Georgia, a U.S. Army post used to prepare soldiers for combat. That means a U.S. Army base, Army post, is going to be setting up a facility, or there will be a facility there for U.S. federal law enforcement. I don't know what that means. You know what posse comitatus is? I'm sure there's a ton of people who watch who know way better than I do. The gist of it being the armed forces can't enforce laws in the U.S. So I'm curious, how will there be any challenges to this, or is it on the up and up? I don't know. Don't ask me. All I'm really concerned about is why ICE would need urban warfare training. That's kind of freaking me out. They say, In addition to revealing Fort Benning as the location of the training site, ICE also failed to properly redact information indicating that the Army post would be getting an expansion with up to 50 buildings expected to be added to the site. A blanket purchase agreement vehicle would be competed among GSA federal supply schedule holders for additional training buildings and interior-exterior outfitting in the first quarter of fiscal year 20. ICE states in a portion it did not attempt to redact from the document. We'll read on. We're going to come back to this. Before I get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. The reason I just jumped over here and did this is because stories like this have hard deranked, and I'd be surprised if this video actually makes it to anybody. If you like it and think this story is important, please consider sharing it or contributing to my work to allow me to continue. But let's read on. They say, in a following partially redacted line, it states, OFTP plans to expand the training site at Fort Benning to include up to 50 additional buildings and add additional U.S. city layouts and designs. Throughout the document, areas that were meant to be withheld were not redacted properly, including signature lines at the bottom of the document instead of names. These would-be redacted lines contain what appears to be placeholders, such as, I'm gonna try and read this. It's just gibberish. Okay, and then it says, Hinajum Gifford de F and Bihim Ku. I don't know what they're trying to say with this, but it's just random text jammed into the thing. ICE's new training facility is expected to include, at minimum, a multitude of basic, intermediate, and hyper-realistic training devices, a tactical training warehouse, classroom facilities, and vehicle assault training area. Why? What's happening? What is ICE going to be doing domestically that they need this training? Man, you know what, man? This is freaky stuff, okay? I believe that if we ever see a rise in a police state or authoritarian system, it will be in response to an escalation from the far left, and then regular people will demand safety from the government. That's why I think we see this. People are going to clap and cheer for the police state when it comes. This is why I think Antifa is the problem. I get it. You know, you might argue, but they're fighting against this. No, they're creating this. I look out the window and I see a guy walking down the street wearing a button-up shirt with coffee in his hand. That guy doesn't know anything about politics. But when he sees a roving band of black-clad individuals with crowbars bashing people and breaking windows, he turns to the government and says, please protect me. And we get this. The last thing I want is to have police on the corner of every street, floodlights, military, grade weapons patrolling the streets because crazies are running amok. I don't like the idea of government expansion and a police state. And we're getting there because crazy people are protesting regular people. You want to protest the government? Okay. You want to protest other people? I understand that too. But when you have like Trump supporters walking around and then crazy far leftists show up throwing bricks and bashing people, now it's getting scary. Let's read on. They say, among those new training devices will be a hyper-realistic prop design that simulates residential houses, apartments, hotels, government facilities, and commercial buildings, along with other training configurations. ICE is specifically interested in acquiring a Chicago-style replica. Stay away from Chicago! As well as an Arizona-style replica, with the agency expecting to dedicate a total estimated value of $961,347.75 to the effort. Check this out. Labor. Here's an important lesson for all y'all. Labor is always the most expensive part. You know why? It's actually really simple, man. Humans do the work. It's funny when people say that labor is the most expensive thing. I'm like, well, yeah, I value a human more than like a piece of metal. But there you go. Look at this. Chicago, Arizona, and Fish Bowls. I don't know what Fish Bowls is, but the Chicago replica labor is $140,000. It's going to cost $355,000 for both projects. They say hyperrealism, the agency states, is a critical component to this acquisition as the details provide essential information that must be acknowledged, processed, and acted upon to minimize risk to our special agents, deportation officers, and SRT operators during high-risk search and arrest warrants, fugitive operations, undercover operations, hostage rescue, gang operations, etc. Now I will stress, it may sound more sensational than it really is. Why would ICE need Chicago and Arizona? Not because they're going to war and there's going to be a civil war, but because they may have to work in gang territory. It's really simple, man. They might go into a place where there's 2 or 3 guys with guns, and they need to understand and they need to train in these areas, otherwise they could get hurt. That's probably the simple solution to the story. They say, the agency goes on to detail how a Defense Science Board task force found that the probability of being a casualty decreases significantly after the first few decisive combats, it adds. These hyper-realistic devices will allow the teams to have those experiences in real-world conditions without the real-world casualties. You see, there you go. Chicago's gang territory, man. They say new ICE employees had already been expected to receive training at the Maneuver Center of Excellence in Fort Benning, where ICE's Office of Training and Tactical Programs, Firearms and Tactics Division makes its home, according to a May 2017 news release published on ICE's website. Explaining what takes place at Benning, ICE Division Chief Bert Medina said in a statement, included in the press release, that ICE trains experienced law enforcement personnel in the use of force and existing weapons and application of force. In addition, we provide law enforcement instructors with the skills and abilities to teach use of force and defensive techniques with and without weapons so they can prepare ICE officers on the front lines of federal law enforcement to perform these duties safely and in accordance with standards. I'm going to tone everything down. Listen, ICE does a specific task. They're immigration enforcement. They're going to go and arrest specific targets, many people who aren't Americans. Police need training. ICE needs training. The FBI needs training. And if you want to reduce casualties for everybody, be it the arrestees or the arresters, It's important they know how to deal with these situations, because a scared person with a gun is a dangerous person. If we can have everybody trained in this kind of stuff, it's probably a good thing. It's very different to say training equates a police state. So again, I don't want to make it seem so hyperbolic. It's just a fun, sensational story. But in the end, it's probably just another boring federal training facility for law enforcement. But we'll keep an eye on it. You know, I don't want to have an optimism bias. I don't want to see a police state and an authoritarian government. I don't like any of those things. But I don't want to see that in the private sector with corporations either. So come on, can we get some sane people here who believe in liberty to push back? Thank you all for watching. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Podcast every day at 6:30, and I will see you all next time.